Hey, good evening and welcome to Fish Hunt Northwest. Dwayne England, Kelly Barnum to my right. IT David and Blake over in their perspective corner. Of course, we'll be joined later in the kitchen, as always, with another fantastic recipe of the week with Chef Kelly and his wonderful assistant Sherry. And she got off to a great start again this evening.
Did she?
Stuffing us with a whole bunch of pre-food stuff. So
I gotta learn to not overeat at this event.
I know. It's a tough one. When she puts all that food out, of course it's healthy stuff, so nothing wrong with that. So glad you're joining us this evening. We are here once again live, as we are every Thursday evening, 6 to 8 p.m. West Coast time. If you're tuning in, you're either watching us on Facebook or our YouTube channel. If you haven't gone over to our YouTube channel, Barnum, folks need to get over there.
Yes.
The numbers keep going up for us, which we really appreciate, but we are posting a whole bunch of extra content on there. We'll post the additional cooking episodes and our how-to segments out of the bait lab. All that kind of lives there at our YouTube channel, so you can dial that up anytime you want and find information that's relevant for time of season. I mean, that's the goal here, right? It's what we try to pull out. So got a lot of that going on. Of course, you can also locate us on Instagram channel, so you can dial that up anytime you want. Whoa, hey, what is that? What is that going on?
That is me.
Is that your computer?
My computer.
Oh, I'm like, what is that?
To the max.
Okay, that's working. I just not used to hearing myself.
Right.
Where was I? Barnum, before I was so rudely interrupted.
Sorry.
Instagram, Twitter, and of course, as I mentioned, our Facebook page. Fish Hunt Northwest. Presented each and every week by Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, Pacific Commons, located in Puyallup, Washington, and thankful to have them on board as they are. With that, Barnum, lots going on around the Sound and beyond, throughout the Pacific Northwest. And a few things caught our attention this week that we want to talk about. Again, it's not all doom and gloom, but we do have a number of things that, as we read through the information week after week, it seems like we get hit from time to time with these cutbacks or lack of opportunity relative to fishing. Most of that is focused on our Chinook stuff. But before we delve into all that, because we got a list of items we want to walk through on that process, we got some information posted up here earlier in the week relative to the wolves. And WDFW, or Washington State's position on where we're going with the future probable, I'll say now, probable delisting of wolves if we get to a certain meet or meet this criteria.
We had both Washington State and Oregon chiming in. Washington State, again, is, they signal that they're in support of delisting of wolves at the federal level. Which, as some of you may not know, and I believe I'm correct, I mean, digging into some of this wolf management plan and the federal side of it and the state side of it at times can be confusing.
Absolutely.
But the federal specification of how the wolves are treated supersedes the state management. So the Fed's coming out and a lot of talk lately about delisting wolves, and most of the western state agencies are in favor of this. And I think Washington State understands that at some point in time, wolves have to be managed. And as we move closer to meeting those management goals, that becomes more and more of a reality. A few members of the Washington State Wildlife Commission, or previous members of the Washington Wildlife Commission, have come out in support of that and said that, absolutely, many people would want to believe that wolves are going to have this sanctuary life in Washington State and grow old and die of old age, but the fact of the matter is that at some point in time, we're going to hunt them.
For management purposes.
Yes, for management purposes.
Do you know what the life expectancy is of a wolf? I learned this listening to Ranella.
Well, I listened to that same episode, so I know. But
4.5 years, right?
Right.
I was blown away by that, 4.5 years. But the interesting thing about that, and this is, listening to other person's pieces of work out there, it really kind of gets you information that you're unaware of, and that's why we do this, right? The fact that, the most prevalent thing that she was talking about was the fact, in comparison to, say, a mountain lion. They have claws and teeth to bring down a large animal. Wolves have their jaw. And a number of them end up with broken jaws and ultimately end up starving to death. There's a whole lot, and they fight a whole lot. I mean, there's just this, it's a whole different dynamic when you're talking about packs of wolves. But I was surprised that their life expectancy is about 4.5 to maybe 5 years. That really caught me off guard. But anyway.
So we have WDFW Director Kelly Sussman coming out this week and saying, and basically acknowledging that they're for it. And he has this quote exactly: "The department finds the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service proposal to remove gray wolves from the list of endangered and threatened wildlife and return management authority to the western 2/3 of Washington to the department appropriately and timely." So, I mean, he's in support of it.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so there's no misconceptions here. And what I had posted out earlier in the week that got this conversation started was the article that was written that denoted that exact fact. And then secondary to that is, so people to understand, we have 3 recognized units or zones within Washington State. The eastern side of the state is doing just fine with its wolf population. I think our last numbers we threw out was like 127 wolves.
122, 127.
Somewhere in there, 124, whatever, 120 something. The fact is, we need 4 successful breeding pairs in each unit or quadrant, right? Yes. So the other 2, the Northern Cascade Range and the Coastal, have yet to show that they have 4 successful breeding pairs. So we're talking about potentially moving wolves across the landscape, because those that are over on the east side are going, you know, if we have to sit and wait for the other 2 areas to get to meet their criteria, this could be detrimental to the populations of elk and deer.
Well, we know the northeast corner of Washington is the hot spot. I mean, that's where the wolves have moved in. They've taken hold, and the distribution of wolves across the west, the west part of the state has happened very slow, which I think is a surprise to a lot in management that they thought that move would be very quick. But the wolves have kind of set up shop in northeast Washington, and again, all speculation, but one of the reasons I believe is because game was so abundant in that area
where they're at,
they've been able to stay there.
No reason to leave.
Right. But you're starting now to see, and I know, a lot of the numbers, we had a tough winter and everything else, but you're seeing moose tags cut, elk harvest numbers in northeast Washington are down. We're seeing deer hunts this year way down, doe seasons way down. I mean, so you're seeing now the effects of maybe a combination of the harsh winters like they talked about, but also massive predation. And so something has to be done. We can't allow one corner of the state to just get absolutely eliminated and not, get the movement across the state that we need.
If you understand big game management, wildlife management, I mean, these elk herds, deer, those large animals on the landscape mixing in with wolves, it's kind of fluid in that. If you understand how it works, coyotes are a great example. If there's an abundance of coyotes and they're surpassing their the amount of food that's available to them.
Carrying capacity.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm looking for, carrying capacity. They do not breed and have as many pups in that general area just by Mother Nature's ability to adjust like that.
Right. So everything on you can go into Google and search this up, but if you can go in and follow like the predator-prey relationship, you'll see the chart and the up and down. You know, as the predator population climbs, you'll see the prey population starts to fall off, and of course the predator population will follow decline and on and on and on.
It might be a little behind it.
Right.
So like this winter's a great example. We had in some areas they've guesstimated 40% loss on certain deer in some of the elk, right? If that is true, if it trends truly that way, and you have wolves that reside in that area, they may produce offspring coming into this year, right? But if the food source isn't there to support them all, those young ones are going to die off. They cannot sustain that large of a pack if there's just not the abundance of food around, and or that also then introduces their willingness to migrate. And we're talking, they've tracked wolves that have migrated anywhere from 50 miles to 500 miles.
Oh yeah, even farther. I remember sitting in on wolf meetings before where they had tracked wolves that, as the crow flew like 600 miles, but as the wolf traveled over 1,200 miles.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, we hear those reports like, oh, so-and-so thinks they saw a wolf on the west side, think they saw a wolf here. And a lot of times that's just blown off, going, oh, you're crazy, it was a coyote. But it's very possible that you're seeing, a wolf that's on an excursion.
Could show up for a few days and then, head back the other way. But, not documented, but, presumed. The other interesting thing is, Diane Boyle, who Ranella interviewed, who is, they call her the Jane Goodall of wolves, right? I mean, she is an amazing bit of resource. She honestly believes that had they not reintroduced wolves into Yellowstone, they would have found their way there anyway. It would have taken longer naturally, but the progression was set in motion. So it was going to happen. It's going to happen here in Washington.
And it's the same thing in Washington State. The progression across the state is going to happen. It just comes down to, I think a lot of it, whether or not we were to relocate, I think a lot of that falls on the staff involved because, I mean, everybody wants that success story in their portfolio, in their file.
They want to be part of that.
If it's going to take 50 years, those staff members are gone.
This is the complication of this, though, is those folks who are already pissed off at WDFW and figure that their continual efforts in mismanagement and mismanagement of game and mismanagement of fish, and we were talking a lot about this before the show, but kind of also lump that into funds available.
Right.
It is extremely hard to keep moving forward in managing hunting and fishing as we would like to see it with a lack of funds. And that's a whole nother topic that we'll kind of touch on a little bit maybe tonight, but we've kind of beat that up a little bit, and it'll continue to resurface time and time again. But
all season long.
Oh my God! So with that,
one more little note from this wolf debacle. Oregon had actually, the Fish and Wildlife Agency had come out, and they also had said that they were in support of this. But now today, I just seen a story that Governor Kate Brown actually come out and said she is not in support of wolf delisting.
She is not in favor.
Not in favor. Yeah. So at least so far here in Washington State, I don't know if we've heard from our governor on his opinion on it, but so far in Washington State, we seem to be kind of working together. But right now, they're going to deal with Oregon. What happens when Fish and Wildlife is in support, but legislature is not?
That'll be interesting.
That'll be very interesting.
See where that goes. We got a Ben Rogers said, shouldn't increased wolf presence have an impact on coyote populations?
Probably will.
I mean, you would think so.
You would think so. Yeah.
The wolves being the dominant, predator there. Absolutely.
Right.
Okay, moving on. Barnum, I had put a couple posts out this week of information I had found. One, our Springer fisheries are continuing to swirl in the toilet. As we've been kind of tracking a few times a week, kind of take a poke at a look at where the dam counts are.
Right.
And, it's not rocket science. You can see that it's trending and the numbers over the dam each day are slowly starting to decline by a few fish, 100 fish here, a couple hundred fish there. And we had talked about this a couple weeks ago, that as they were reopening that or giving an opening above the dam for a couple days, but they had already indicated that catches down below in the lower river were starting to taper off a little bit.
Right.
Didn't know if it was a low in the push of fish or if this was going to be the tail end that's already starting to rear its ugly head. In fact, if you watch the dam count numbers, you see that those numbers are dropping.
Yep.
Idaho had declared a Springer season this year, for our buddies over there, our good buddy John Albridge, who tunes in each week, except for tonight he's on the road. But, they were excited to get there 2 days a week. And now shutting that down because the numbers just don't support that fishery. Not only shutting down the opportunity 2 days a week in the Clearwater, but the lower part of the salmon where the Clearwater dumps in. Anything below that is closed now. And it makes sense, unfortunately, because as of today when we looked, and actually the numbers from yesterday, the 15th, just under 41,000, which,
let's see
which I put that in about 38, it's just under 40%, 38% or so of the preseason forecast are running 99,000. So I am, I don't know if I really want to wager, but I'll say, and I told you earlier, I'll be very surprised if we hit 50% of the preseason forecast on this run this year.
I think you're going to be accurate kind of looking, but now I'm kind of looking at these numbers. If you start at like last week, say the 7th of May, and you kind of work through now, the numbers have steadily dropped across it.
Every day.
Yeah, it goes from 4,800 to 2,700 to 22 to 17 to 1,200. The numbers steadily dropping, but if we look back at last year, we've seen a very similar decrease this week, and then the numbers bumped back up and went, going into next week, last year's count, those numbers got right back into 3,000 and 5,000.
So this next week would be telltale sign.
Right. So if we get through next week and we don't see that jump back up, then you're going to have to start to look at it and go, they ain't coming.
Right.
So and who knows what last year was, weather related or what, but.
Well, we're right at that threshold. I mean, this is that time, as you just pointed out.
And we're getting our rain this week, which should definitely move some fish.
Yeah.
So,
changing the weather. And so I guess we'll keep an eye on it. Idaho, you may get a couple days back, but I'm doubtful. So time to start chasing kokanee and fish out in the saltwater. Along with the decline of Chinook in the Columbia, there's other things going on. ODF&W announced meetings on this starting yesterday, actually, in the Nehalem area. And, of course, they got a bunch of meetings scheduled over the next couple weeks. Tillamook, North Bend, Newport, Port Orford, and Brookings. These meetings are all in an effort to allow folks to come and join in on helping decide what season should be set for your coastal fall Chinook fisheries. The numbers are down substantially, and they're trying to protect the wild runs of these Chinook and get enough in for spawner escapement needs. They feel like they potentially could fall short. they're juggling around ideas and concepts of like, you can, in this system, you're allowed 1 Chinook for the season.
Wow.
In this system, you're allowed 1 Chinook per day, 5 for the season. Now, I've sat in meetings in the past, WDFW, where we've talked about allocations like that. There's been pushback from the department at times to say that's very tough to monitor.
Right.
Which I agree. But, you know, it's catch record cards and those types of things. Kind of like halibut, you're allowed 4.
Right, and they're doing that with sturgeon now. You know, you're picking your days. You're only allowed 1 per day, 2 per year. You know, you have to be off the water by a certain time. And I think they're seeing that there's some success to that.
I think that's the key, is that they are finding that that is manageable and enforceable.
Right.
So you're going to start seeing perhaps speculation here on our part, but you might start seeing at times that we now start crafting these seasons to be more, I'd consider even a little more complex in your retention opportunity in the name of conservation. So you can check out where those meetings are going to be. I found this on the ODF&W site under their news releases. It came out yesterday, and they have a host of meetings. If you care at all down there in Oregon on the coast for the opportunity to keep your Chinook and be able to retain a couple of those wild Chinook, and also try to make sure you're paying attention to what's going on as they construct those seasons and give you opportunity, try to show up at those meetings and figure out what's going on, okay?
Right. They're doing meetings right now also on the sturgeon fishing side of things too, for basically, I believe, everything north of Bonneville.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're going to hold meetings in the Dalles, Oregon, Wednesday, May 22nd, Kennewick, 6 to 8 on June 11th, and then in Hermiston, Oregon, Wednesday, June 12th. And they're going to do a meeting in Montesano, too, coming up. So they're digging into the sturgeon stuff, too, and trying to set seasons on that, too. So,
speaking of Chinook declines, as we continue to walk down this road, unfortunately, as we look at how they've constructed or built the summer Chinook season relative to the Columbia River, you know, there's only just less than 36,000 summer Chinook projected, right, for Washington and Oregon opportunity on the Columbia. Lowest preseason forecast in that particular fishery for summer Chinook in 19 years. 2000 was the last time it was down around those numbers. So that is concerning. You're also not going to be able to have, you're not going to have any sockeye retention due to projected low escapement numbers. This also, the numbers indicate we're in trouble on our steelhead returns, and some of these seasons, as they built them out, will be very fluid, moving upriver with the steelhead and having openings and closings as it again moves upriver. This makes it difficult as a recreational angler to keep track of, you know, where you're fishing, when it's open, when it's closed, when you have retention, when you don't. Is it catch and release or isn't it? Do we get to use barbs? I don't know. Ask the gill netter. They'll tell you. I mean, it's jumping all over the place, but I get it. It's all in the name of conservation, and we have extremely low numbers, not just on a single fishery, but multiple fisheries this year are really in the toilet, and it's concerning. You can go to www.myodfnw.com as one source of information that's going to line out this summer and into fall Chinook opportunity on the main stem Columbia. And, you know, at best it's concerning, Barnum. I mean, I haven't read anything this week that was like, oh, good.
No, I did see a news article in one of our local papers that was really pumping and promoting the coho fishery this year, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know that that's going to be a world-class fishery, but I think it's the only small bright spot that you can look at when you look at the Chinook returns.
So how can we tie that coho conversation into this conversation? It's simple. So coho are a 3-year fish.
Right.
And we have an abundance of coho projected to come back this season, which has got a lot of folks excited because even though some of our fisheries in Puget Sound and whatnot were built out of conservation efforts on the Chinook, and we can't be going after coho in certain areas and catch and release on all these Chinook because of mortality rates. There's other areas where the coho are going to be that could be pretty abundant if it comes true. Now, it's a 3-year fish, so if we look back at 2016 and now we're 2019, those fish are returning. Okay, our Chinook are generally a class 4-year fish and beyond. So if you do the math from 2015, you would think we'd start seeing fish this year, but truly it's about the returners from 2016 that we're keying in on here, much like the coho of this year.
Right.
So if it's a 2016 brood year, we're banking on next year, on the heels of this coho return this year, 3-year fish, Chinook next year, 4-year fish, we should see the numbers jump up exponentially.
Right.
I mean, you talk to anybody that understands fisheries, that's what they're banking on.
Right.
Early indicators will be well, 6 months from now, they'll really start putting a gauge on it and see what's going on.
So when you kind of think about, and I haven't looked at the numbers, but you talk about the year 2000 as being the last time fish numbers were this low for Chinook.
Yeah.
Right. And so would you say that, I mean, obviously we have a lot of issues going on, but could you say this is a cycle,
Is it cyclical?
Right.
Well, look at the Lower Columbia for that early fall Chinook fishery buoy 10, 2012, 13, 14.
Right.
Off the charts.
Epic numbers.
We had 1 million Chinook coming back.
Right.
And that was, 10 years.
Right, so that's what I'm wondering. Yeah. Are we seeing a 10-year cycle where we're 10 at the peak? Here's 20 years from that 2000 that you're back down at the bottom.
Here's my concern, something we may see come true or not. I might just be full of crap, but we'll see. 2015 was an extremely hot, long, dry summer.
Right.
We knew we were in drought conditions as we rolled into springtime. Snow levels were down. River levels were going to be down and warm as we got into fall time fisheries, and they were. We didn't get rain until late October when those salmon were trying to come back. They had poor recruitment on spawner outbound to smolt, following that season.
Right.
I mean, it really kind of carried over into 2015, and the biggest contributor there was 2015 was an odd year, and we saw those humpies come back, and they had been subjected to that blob that was all of a sudden starting to rear its head. Scientists began to understand that we didn't have the upwelling currents in the ocean to keep the water temperatures cool. We didn't get the push out of the north to move that water out and get those colder temperatures. And we had that big blob out there, which was a biomass of death, and no nutrient base, no forage fish. A lot of our adult fish suffered, and we're still kind of recovering from that.
Right.
2019 is shaping up for an extremely, and I get some of this stuff. This is where my two worlds collide, right? So right now I'm busy at work looking at forecasted summer season and dryness and drought conditions, and as it weighs in on our fire season for our wildland urban interface types of fires that we're going to be combated with, it's going to be one hell of a bad summer for us here on the west side of Washington, okay? I wonder if there's a correlation on that, and I get it. It has to do with ocean conditions, ocean currents, upwelling of cooler water, cool air pushing down from the north. But if we don't get that, and we're experiencing these high heat conditions from, say, mid-June all the way to September, I'm not so sure we're not going to see another blob reemerge that could hover out there off the coast for a couple of years. If that happens, we're right back into that downturn cycle.
Right.
I mean, things are kind of indicating that may happen, may not. Maybe a few weeks down the road or a month or so when we'll get some oceanic scientists in here that can kind of tell us what is truly going on. But I'm looking back at things that happened in 2015 and trying to correlate it to what's going on here in 2019 and see if there's not something that's going to come by and just kind of kick our butt once again. So along with all these fishery declines, on the good news of things here, Barn, that we're so chipper about expressing to all you out there. I had put a post out there, and I just simply asked people to say, what do you think the number 1 and 2 reasons for our salmon declines are? I just want to gauge where people are at. We've been talking about this stuff for quite a while now. And whether you think it's habitat, predation, lack of hatchery fish, overharvest by commercials, lawsuits by private groups, whatever.
And that's what I really expected when I seen you throw up that post and I started reading through the comments. Before I read through the comments, I expected it to be really narrowed down to 2 or 3 things. But realistically, the amount of things that people thought contributed to this were people have a lot of theories. There is a lot of ideas,
and it was a good amount of responses, which we appreciate. Glad you guys are involved in that regard. It's interesting. So I went through here earlier this morning and just kind of read through all the comments and kind of made marks on which ones they were lean and heavy on for their 1 and 2, right? And predation is at the top of the list. For the majority of folks answering, predation is your number 1 concern, both pinniped and birds. Throughout whether you're a Columbia River fisherman or out on the Sound or wherever you are, predation is your number 1. Overharvest is your number 2, albeit commercials, tribes, high sea, long netters and stuff, and lack of regulation that's detrimental to our fisheries. And also, folks are throwing in the Alaska and Canada component as far as harvest on our fish. Albeit, though, this year we've been told that we're going to see a 12% increase on our returns from up north due to the Pacific Marine Fisheries Commission, the PMFC, agreement of where their timing of their commercial harvest is going to allow for 12% more of our Chinook returning, is what we've been told. Right. So we'll see if that comes to be true or not. Number 3 on the list would be lack of hatchery production, which is actually a huge component because in some of our areas, we're down as much as 65 to 70%.
Right.
Programs have been cut, completely done away with. The amount of fish being dumped into a given basin to outbound into Puget Sound and beyond is down by.
I mean, that one seems pretty simple to me. I mean, if you put less fish stock in the water, you
might get
obviously
fish back, right?
You obviously expect to get less.
We're
fish
no math
back.
majors, but that's what we come up with.
Right.
The number 4, and there's more people starting to pay attention to this. You know, they're calling for dam removal on the Snake River. I saw an interesting program where they actually talked about the fact that these dams on the Snake River produce 12 to 70% of surplus power. That's not, I mean, the minimal amount of power that's generated by these dams can be overcompensated by windmills and other sources that these dams don't even need to be there because they're truly not even utilizing them for what they were initially put in for.
Okay.
So it's like if they're really not doing what they initially were put in for and they can actually pull them off grid and outsource the power generation from somewhere else, then why wouldn't you remove them?
Right.
I mean, it makes sense. If it's that important but we're talking millions upon millions of dollars to make those happen. There's other projects going on too with other dams throughout the state of Washington. Some of our low flow dams, like on the Green River and on the Nisqually, there's all these low flow dams that are for flood control and whatnot. But they're now working with Army Corps of Engineers to look at constructing fish passage on a number of these dams because they're not going to remove them, but they're now going back to say, they should have put fish passage in these when they initially built them, but nobody was thinking that way. So when you talk about reclaiming habitat, fish passage on some of these low head dams is part of that component in allowing now these fish to naturally migrate up into those upper spawning areas that they haven't had access to for years, right? So that's kind of important. That leads into number 5 on the list, which was habitat and ocean conditions, which we don't have a lot of control on the ocean conditions. But I did make a note there to say 2015, remember what happened there, and I already kind of spelled my theories on what we may encounter for 2019, but I guess that we have yet to see. And of course, then at the bottom of the list, but is still on the radar of many, the lawsuits that come from private company or private groups that just kind of inundate with WDFW, with wasted time and just their private agendas to try and decide where and how and when fish should or should not be planted. So kind of interesting. It shows us that you guys are paying attention because a lot of this stuff is relevant. Matter of fact, everything on the list, all the things you guys are posting on our Facebook page is relevant information that we have at one time or another discussed. And unfortunately for most of these, we probably will continue to discuss. So
on and on and on.
That is kind of where we're at on that. We appreciate you guys jumping on those posts. When we put that information out there, oftentimes, Barnum, we try to post those out an open-ended question. And there's purpose for that. We want you folks out there who follow us and engage in conversation to kind of weigh in on where you sit on this stuff. And collectively, we try to help educate each other. So when you see information out there that's relevant or you have concern about and or you want to know more about, post it up on our Facebook page, get engaged on the topics we put out there. And of course, we want to see your pictures. We want to know that you're using our recipes that Chef Kelly puts out every week. There's a lot of stuff going on there that people need to be involved with. So.
Continue the dialogue. Get on those posts. Let us know your opinions. Drop in some facts if you can, but try to keep it civil. Every once in a while, we see on there some guys start going head to head, and it's like,
little head button.
Try to keep it civil.
Okay, with that, run a little long, but that's because I'm long-winded, as we always are. So far, I'm doing all right, holding up with the cold. No major sneeze fest going on here. So we are going to jump out for a quick break. We come back. I'm going to break it down the bait lab for you. I got a number of things I'm going to cover in short order. Try to just dial you in for some kokanee. Kokanee fishing starting to take off on a number of lakes. You wouldn't know by today or yesterday these cooling temperatures that we have now, but things are going to warm up again. Lake temperatures are definitely warming up. Reservoir temperatures are going to begin to warm up. These fish are going to get snappy. Going to show you kind of a progression of things to think about. If you have been successful fishing for kokanee, maybe it's nothing new. If you just are thinking about going after kokanee, there will probably be some information here that we hope you are able to use. That is what we're going to do in the bait lab when we come back after this commercial break. Stay with us right here on FHN.
night, the pink skies waving goodbye. She come out to break the night, leaving no traces around. She's trying to free her reckless heart. She's trying to be as light as a breeze. The queen of art, Friday morning. The queen of art, Friday morning. She come out to break the night, as sweet as always. You come out to break the night, you'll be wearing her charm so frail. Yeah, she's trying to avoid everyone.
Hey, welcome back to FHN. We're obviously standing in the bait lab as we try to do each and every week. So we're going to talk a little bit about kokanee fishing. Again, if you've been doing it and having success, great. You know, maybe hang in there and pay attention. You might learn something, or maybe you won't. But if you're just new to thinking about maybe going after kokanee, or have questions on what you should be using or how to rig and what do they really go after, I'm just going to walk you through the progression that I utilize pretty much each time I hit the water, especially early season when I haven't quite dialed in any particular fishery, whether it's here on the home lake in the backyard, up on American Lake, down there at Merwin, or anywhere else. Even if we go all the way to Flaming Gorge in Utah-Wyoming border, any and all this will work. Lake Roosevelt. Those are all different fisheries that you need to put time on the water to dial in. Kokanee can be very fickle. You think you have them dialed in one day and you knock them out of the park. Next day you go out there, you can't get a bite. So it's all about, that is blinking red there. We're gonna need to plug that in. So, sorry for the interruption. Anyway, looking at what we have here on the board to start off with. If you start off in the morning and you're in low light conditions, oftentimes we find as we progress through the season that we get on the water earlier and earlier. When it starts getting light at 4:30 in the morning, we're launching the boat at 4 a.m., minimal light on the water. I often find best success with lots of UV and or glow. Okay, can't go wrong there, and big flash. So what am I talking about, big flash? Well, we have a number of different types of dodgers we can utilize. Again, if you remember last week when we had Herzog in here, we were talking about different makeups of dodgers, single wave form, dual wave form, how much action that's going to put on your lure with the dual wave. Now, this is a nice, big, bright, nickel-plated dodger. It's dual wave. It's going to have a lot of action to it. Put some moon jelly tape on the back of that. And it's going to put off a lot of flash in low light conditions. That is UV moon jelly. It's capturing any light that penetrates through the water is going to reflect off of this. And that's what you need early morning like that. Indoor, you can also put some glow strips on here, which this one doesn't have, but that also works very well as an attractant in low light, okay? So we're talking bigger dodger, bigger flash, lots of UV, really draw and pull the light in that is minimal coming from the sky penetrating to the water. So what about lure presentation? So on the board here, I have a number of different size lures, and again, it's progressional. So down here at the bottom, I have a larger presentation, a nickel, larger blade with a UV skirt, double hook setup as I normally run on most of my rigs, okay? Now this leader is a little longer. This is about an 18 or so inch leader, simply because this big blade has a lot of thump, generates its own action by spinning and thumping through the water. The further away from your dodger that your presentation is, the less the dodger actually puts action onto your lure, okay? It will to a point, but the longer that leader is, the less action it's moving that presentation at the tail end. So if we shorten up that leader and it's closer to that dodger, it's gonna get more swing and more wag. I also have rigged all these. You may think it's a little overkill, but 12-pound test fluorocarbon Okay, let me clarify that. We use fluorocarbon just because it's a stiffer line. They can't see it. And that's one reason we go up to 12-pound test, is because the stiffer the line, the better the action on the lure as it trails behind the Dodger. If you use like a 6-pound monofilament, you're just not going to have the action on your lure that you really need. Okay, so beef it up a little bit. Not to mention, you're able to fish that lure time and time again without those small fish wearing out that leader, especially the material in between your hooks if you're using mono, not using braid. That's another topic for another day. As we progress through the morning, and depending on how the bite's going, now keep in mind, if you're fishing 2 or 3 rods, you have the option to put different presentation on each rod. So maybe on one rod, I go with big flash on my lure, lots of UV, lots of glow, really trying to entice them. The next one over, I might start, as I had mentioned last week, I always start with something gold, especially if I have the moon jelly on there. Okay, I will always start with gold, and believe it or not, in minimal light conditions, this one actually works and performs quite well. So that may be coupled with something like this, a squid body or a hoochie, a small hoochie, this Ace High mini hoochie from, this Ace High mini hoochie with a smile blade on there, okay? Again, it's a little bit shorter of a leader because that smile blade does not have as much action or thump as that nickel blade on there, okay? So because it doesn't put out as much vibration, doesn't have as much flash, we're gonna run that a little bit closer to our Dodger just to impart more action on the lure. So here we have a hoochie skirt with some flash and some crystal flash and whatnot in there to spice it up a little bit with some UV. Put a nice little YBC spin and glow on there. This also has UV on it. That imparts a little bit of action and vibration, which kokanee are drawn to vibration. So that one there will give you some vibration and some reflectiveness off of the UV. And again, it's a little bit of a shorter leader, about 12 inches. It imparts very little action on itself, so we want to keep it a little bit closer to the Dodger. As we progress even further into the morning and the daylight gets stronger, especially on full sun days, when that sun comes up, remember, kokanee have bigger eyes than, say, compared to trout. So as the light gets more intense, they're going to want to go a little bit deeper. And you'll start finding them, rely on your electronics to find out exactly where they're hovering in the water column and get your presentation down to them. Fish above them, not below them, because they don't look down. So as we get more light in the morning, and especially on sunny days, gold is your friend. Okay, you can see a number of these. Here is a hammered blade with some UV, larger 6 mil beads, a little bit of flash, a little bit of crystal flash, a little bit of UV strands in there. We can even bring this down a little bit smaller as I get into my series of lures that more resemble Herzog's Rasticle, albeit it's a Rasticle with a mini LP shrimp overlay on the top of all that crystal flash and that flash boom and things like that. Put that mini UV squid over there. You're adding color, you're adding glow on the head, you're adding translucence, you're adding just a amazing amount of, like it says here on the pack, double glow plus the UV over the crystal flash, and those in combination put off a good amount of color and attractability. I've downsized though even more because we're getting further into the morning, so I got smaller beads. Of course, they all have UV, different color combinations to create contrast. Here on this one here, if you can see that, we got this pink with some orange, all UV, all reflective. I've used a black and glow little LP squid over the Flashaboo and material that I've tied into my hook. That black in contrast with this pink and orange does an amazing job as far as contrast, okay? This one here is a LP, that is a mini squid, that is a solid pink, tremendous UV and glow. It's a matter of creating any combination that you desire simply by mixing and matching as far as what you decide to put with lures. My main point here is that in the morning, low light condition, you're starting out a little bigger presentation, and if those are getting bit, you want to switch to a larger presentation. If you find that the bite has somewhat dropped off a little bit, you're going to work through your progression and start going smaller. Now, most of these are pink and orange because I have a lot of success utilizing pink and orange, albeit sometimes we put on some chartreuse or some green. It just depends on how the bite's going. If you completely go cold for a while, that's when everything comes out of the box and you're trying to figure out combinations that may work. We may end up going with some of these splatterback pink Dick Knight Dodgers. We may use the Rocky Mountain with all this splatter and all this UV on here. Tremendous colors and things that reflect and really draw them in. So it's to your benefit to equip yourself with a number of different options relative to your Dodgers, sizes, and the type of flash and or UVs they put off. And then of course, building your lures in so that you have selection from larger to small. Sometimes they don't want anything but a little tiny small blade and a couple beads. No flash, no crystal flash, no UV strands, no nothing. Couple red hooks and some bait, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But that's generally the progression. Start with big flash in the morning, and you work your way to smaller presentation. Unless you get your 5 or 10 or 20, depending where you're fishing. If you're getting your limits and they keep on biting, don't change a thing. Figure out what they want, switch all rods to that, and then when you get into schools, you're going to have multiples and triples and quads, depending on how many rods you're fishing. Once you get it dialed, they're going to respond. If you don't have the ability, time, or the willingness to tie your own stuff, let me just set this down real quick. A number of manufacturers out there have a ton of things that you can select from, okay? Rocky Mountain has a variety of different types of small squid bodies, all UV, and or some of them with glow, but in combination with small blades that have UV splatter, reflective on them, color combinations all over the map, gives you a lot of options to choose from. Max Lure has been around forever. Their Cha-Cha Squidders work extremely well. Some of their small shad blades actually work great for kokanee in tough conditions where they want some brighter stuff. Little wedding ring combination there, little chromes or golds with small hook presentation. Now these are single hooks, so you may want to tie an extra hook on there, but some of these combinations, if you don't have time to make them up yourself, work extremely well in tough conditions because you're going, again, down to smaller baits, smaller presentation, and sometimes that's all it takes is a change of your presentation color or size-wise, okay? Jeremy John with Kokanee Kid, he produces a ton of stuff. A lot of his smaller stuff is really intriguing. He has glow hooks, gold blades. He uses a lot of bead combinations with chromes and or nickel and of course gold. Synonymous with Kokanee fishermen. He's got these in here with UV and glow. So a lot of his stuff, the smaller profile stuff, you can't really find it anywhere else. And it works very well as you progress through your morning. Again, starting with some bigger things and then moving towards the smaller, pick up some of Jeremy's stuff because if you want that real small stuff, he's going to be the guy that can provide that for you. Jared Gibbons, who will be on later on the show, in his moneymaker stuff, his shaker wings are very productive. Come in a variety of colors. They have flash, they have glow, they have thump. It's an offset wing that does a real nice job in the size of the wing being larger on one side than the other. It puts out a broken cadence that really provides a lot of thump and vibration that kokanee respond to, okay? Now looking at the top of this area here, I got a lot of kokanee lures and everything all over. I got these great big Dodgers on here. Now, I would never put this in line and troll this. This is something I would use for sockeye. I've added moon jelly strips on here to even give it more flash. But what I will do with these, because kokanee are responsive to activity that's going on, things putting off flash, things that draw them in. If you are able to equip your downrigger balls by simply hooking more flash in more of a ruckus underneath your boat, with these larger Dodgers and or flashers, you hook those to your downrigger balls and just drag them. Just let them flop around and reflect and create a lot of nuisance. That can grab their attention to bring them up to where they're going to come check out what's going on, and then shortly thereafter your presentation may go trolling by them and it's going to trigger a strike. So options for attractability, it's, what isn't tried won't work, as our buddy Herzog often has said. And so if you aren't enticing them, if you don't have fish following your presentation, if you're not marking fish following underneath your boat, put stuff out there off of your downrigger balls to create more flash, more disturbance, more eye candy for them to be drawn in towards your presentation. Now above all that, slide this out of the way a little bit, we got to talk about bait. Kokanee are bait and scent junkies, okay? For me, I typically start out the year with my tray of goods. I use a lot of the Potski's corn, mostly because it works extremely well. It's pre-cooked and it's been It's been jarred. It very seldom, if ever, goes bad, especially if you keep it refrigerated. So the fact that it's been pre-cooked, the bacteria has been cooked out of it. You don't have to worry about things molding and stuff like that. Now you can buy canned corn at the store, which a lot of you do, which is fine. It's soft. It lasts for a while after you've added oils and scents and things to it. I guarantee you that this corn, it stays on extremely well because it has been cooked and it's firmed up. And for me, it's as simple as taking Potski's kokanee corn, the fire corn, and I add into that a variety of different oils from Mike's. I'm simply going to add scent combinations with color combinations, and there is a ton of options that we have. We have a variety of different colors of corn that you can use. Pinks work extremely well, natural color works well, yellow works as well. Probably my favorite go-tos. Once in a while I'll use the dark red, but more often than that I'm using the pinks and the natural. And scents that I like to use, tuna garlic for sure, and I can mix some of the tuna oil from Mike's and some of the garlic, and it makes a phenomenal combination. I can use, they make a kokanee scent, which is extremely sweet, almost smells like vanilla, but not quite. Extremely sweet, and there are times of the year that kokanee are drawn to more of a sweet odor than anything else, okay? So simply by taking the lid off and taking a bottle of that oil, dumping it in here till you fill it up, and then of course just let that sit in there for a while, turn the jar around a little bit. I keep these in the fridge. Once I've put the oil in there, I literally have taken jars of corn, put in different scents of oil, mixed and matched, made different combinations, and I have fished maybe the jars down to halfway. I have left them in my refrigerator for an entire year, came out the next season and fished them, and guess what? They worked absolutely fine. No mold, no funk, no decline in the way the scent smelled. It was as strong as it was the day I put it in there because it's in the refrigerator in my bait fridge at about 34 degrees. Just above freezing because you don't want to freeze it, but it's kept extremely cold so it doesn't allow bacteria and things to grow in there. And it actually works, and it works very well. You can maintain or sustain your bait in your fridge for a long time if you keep it cold enough. This corn has been pre-cooked. It's tough, it stays on, it's durable. Kokanee can strike it. It doesn't knock it off the hook like some of the softer corns you buy in the grocery store. And simply by adding oils into each jar, you are creating bait combinations, and it's pretty much endless. I would suggest trying some of Mike's crayfish oil. Is a great scent for kokanee, believe it or not. Herring works extremely well. Combination of tuna garlic, as we mentioned, is a definite go-to. Shrimp anise or shrimp anise is another deadly combination that works. And don't be afraid to try the earthworm. Believe it or not, they make an earthworm scent. It looks like the sand shrimp oil. It's just as yellow. It looks identical. But you pop the lid on that thing and it smells like earthworm. And yes, kokanee love night crawlers and earthworms. If you've never used worms for kokanee, you'll be surprised. So scent up your corn. The color works for attractability. The scent definitely works. Something else you want to do too. In my bait box for kokanee, I keep a couple different flavors of paste. And the reason I do that is because I will take some of that out of the jar and I will put it on these larger dodgers. I dropped all my smaller, here's one. So if I'm fishing this Wonder Bread dodger, I always, and I mean always, will put some scent on the back of this dodger. I will take some extra tuna oil on top of that gel, and I will put a little bit of that on there and smear that on, and I leave that scent running on those dodgers all day long, okay? Kokanee, again, are scent junkies. If I can put extra scent in the water that's going to draw them in, I put them on the dodger. People say, well, you don't want to do that because it's tough to get off. It's not that tough to get off. You wipe it off when you're done. You take them into the house when you're done for the day, wash them in hot, soapy water, let them dry, take care of your gear. It works great. If you're not putting scent on your dodgers, you're missing out on an opportunity to put extra scent in the water and draw those kokanee in. So just a few things that I have done over the last several years as I've been in pursuit of kokanee. And when I go trying different areas that I haven't fished before, there's a progression I go through depending on what time of day I'm starting, and locating fish and all those things that you want to do to find them. And then if you're on top of them with your electronics and you know there's kokanee around and they should be snapping, if you're not quite getting them, you got to go in progression. You got to change your dodger, you got to change your presentation with your lure, you got to change your bait and scents and see which ones they want. Fish different options on your different rods, dial them in, figure out which one they want, and hopefully you'll find some success. Well, hopefully that kind of dials you in a a little bit to go out entices you to maybe start building some of your own lures and or go purchase some of the stuff of the manufacturers we mentioned here today. Pick up some of your Potski corn and your Mike's oil. Make it easy on yourself as far as baiting and scenting. Trust me, you're going to thank me for that one later. Okay, enough about kokanee. We're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back, we're going to be back in the main studio. We're going to get Tommy Donlin on the phone. If you haven't followed him on Facebook, you're missing out. He is a very successful outdoorsman, both in the realm of saltwater fishing, out in the blue water, chasing large fish, and of course, he's a freak about his hunting as of the last few years. And we're going to delve into a little bit conversation on fitness levels for hunting and big game pursuit later on in the year. So we'll do all that and more. We come back right here on FHN. Hey, welcome back to FHN. We're back here in the main studio, and Barnum, we got a guest coming on the phone that we have not talked to yet as far as on the show.
Right.
Phenomenal individual. He is very aggressive and active in his outdoor pursuits.
Right.
If you haven't followed Tommy Donlin on Facebook or social media, you need to. The guy is successful at whatever it is he attempts to take on. I've known Tommy for a number of years. Had him actually in studio up there at KGR years back. And just kind of, follow each other along and what's going on out there in the outdoors world and
right.
keep in touch via that way. But Tommy, we got you there.
Hey, good evening, guys. How you doing?
Hey, we're doing great. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Already gotten 8 days on the water this month. We're going to finish up in Nia Bay this weekend, and then it's off to Florida to chase swordfish and make a 2-day Bahama run. So I have zero complaints.
Yeah, I can imagine so. We're going to jump into the Nia Bay CQ halibut lingcod opportunity here in a minute. I want you to run down for us, as you and I were talking the other day, some of the things you have scheduled on your personal calendar from now towards the end of the year, getting into October, November for that hunting opportunity. What are some things you already have definitely written on your calendar that you are going to go do?
Yeah, absolutely. The calendar used to be a lot more simple than it is now.
Right.
But I caught, like I was telling you, I caught the hunting bug in 2015, and that pretty much consumes the calendar year round between hunting and fishing. So what I got going on is basically Nia Bay, halibut, lingcod, and sea bass this weekend. I'll finish up there. I'll tow back, jump on a plane on the 22nd, heading to Fort Lauderdale. I'm going to chase swordfish. That's been something that I've always wanted to do in the daytime, deep drop for swordfish. So I want to learn that fishery, see if we can put one or two on the boat. We're also going to make a 2-day run to the Bahamas, chase wahoo, sailfish, tuna, play that game. I'm going to fly back. As soon as I fly back, I've got 2 days in the office, and then I'm headed out at barrels for baiting bears.
Oh,
so
man. A rough 2 days in the office. Jeez.
Yeah, so rough 2 days.
I know, it's horrible.
You going to make it?
Yeah, don't tell the guys back in the office.
Right.
So, and so then June is really going to be dedicated to hunting bear in Idaho, and that's something that a good friend of mine, Ty Christie, introduced me to 2 years ago, and it just became part of my operating rhythm. So it's Idaho every year in June, and and one thing that I'm learning is that the weather in Idaho isn't a whole lot different than the weather can be in Nebraska, South Dakota sometimes in the spring.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Last year it was 81 degrees when we showed up in the middle of June, and we left. It was 31 degrees and snowing.
Yep.
And man, I tell you what, sleeping in the tent that night, I almost felt like I was Dorothy. I almost felt like we were going to get picked up by the wind and relocated, not being in Kansas anymore.
Right.
So that's the June program. And then towards the end of June, I'll tow my boat back up to Nia Bay, and then we're going to target kings. Really the focus is kings. We'll do kings and silvers out of Nia Bay towards the end of June, and then that'll go through about the third weekend in July. And then after that, it'll be back down to Westport. We'll chase tuna end of July into August, into early September, and then I've got a multi-season deer tag in my pocket, so I'm going to head out to the east side of the state. And look for my very first archery deer. I've taken a couple goats and pigs in Hawaii with my bow, but I've never gotten anything here in the state of Washington. So that's
Right.
the first objective is to try to put an archery buck on the table. And then after that, it's out to Idaho. Met another good friend, Jason Johnson, who kind of introduced us to the Idaho gig, and we've become part of his program out there in the Panhandle. So we're going to head out to Idaho. We're going to hunt for maybe 1 to 1.5 weeks there, predominantly for elk, and then also have a deer tag in my pocket there as well. And then after that, I'm going to head back home, and we're going to chase bulls on the west side of the state. So that's really the game plan.
Yeah,
And,
busy guy.
It is, and so then the other thing is I've gotten deep into reloading, deep into reloading.
Well, I mean, your spare time, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. The way I look at it, and I was telling you this the other day, is you get one chance to live, right?
Right.
And I do not want to get to the end of my life, look back, I wish I would have done this, or
Sure.
I wish I would have done that. You got one chance, and so I'm trying to fit it all in, and yeah, sometimes it feels like trying to put 10 pounds of stuff into a 1 pound bag, but I'd rather have it that way than the other way.
Right. Well, hey, you're very successful on the water. Matter of fact, you're with Defiance Boats, Ray Marine, Mercury Outboards, and got a host of pro staffs that you're aligned with. And let's talk a little bit about your early successes for the halibut openers. A lot of folks went out there and struggled, and I think you have a understanding as to perhaps why they found it difficult to find fish on the first 2 or 3 times out this season. You seem to be successful in getting out on the waters. What was your approach? What advice could you give folks who are going to tackle those last few days that we still have opportunity on? What should they think about changing up in their game plan?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason that a lot of folks struggled for the first 2 openers is really simply the timing of those openers. Those fish are still really deep in the canyons. And I'm really talking specifically about kind of northern Marine Area 3 and then Marine Area 4. A lot of those fish had not come up onto the flats. And so, people are typically fishing that 400 to 500, even into that 600-foot depth range, when really they should have been focused on the 600 to 800-foot depth range. And I know that seems deep, right? But that just gives us as fishermen a reason to go buy extra gear and buy electric reels.
Electric reels, yeah.
That, so that we heavy cranking. And there is something that can be said for electric reels when, we do a drift and I tell the crew, hey, can you pick it up? They don't even think twice when you're 700 feet deep and you got to reel up the 2-pound jig, right?
Right.
They just hit the button and 2 seconds later the gear's at the boat.
Yeah.
But I think that is, if I had to say the number one reason why people struggled is because out of Nia Bay in La Push, the opener isn't typically that first week of May. It's typically the middle of May. So if you went into that opener with the mentality that, hey, I'm going to get them where I've always got them, that's not always the case, right? And I'm sure, like Kelly, as you know, it's the same thing with elk, right? You can't count on them to be in the same spot pre-season, the rut, post-rut, late season. They're going to be in a different location, and it's the same thing for halibut, right? They're making a migration. They're going to be in a different location. So I would say that is the number one reason I would say is that right there.
Right.
Right. With the elk, we like to say the elk are where the elk are. And I think halibut are probably very similar. They are where they are.
Yep. Exactly. You got to find them.
So I'm assuming also during that last trip, you guys probably targeted lingcod. And what were you finding effective in the lingcod fishery, and what depths were you fishing at there?
Yeah. So for the lingcod, we target predominantly the 400 to 500 foot range, but really what we're looking for is we're looking for hard pan bottom. We're looking for that rocky structure. And my approach to halibut fishing, lingcod fishing, is that, a lot of those larger model halibut are not in your typical sandy spots, or if they are in a sandy gravelly spot, it's right adjacent to some rocky structure. And so the way I approach it is typically on a halibut day, I'm going to target lingcod and sea bass first, because I know that there's a good probability of catching a larger model halibut on some of those, rockier structures as you come off the rock, or off that hard pan, and you kind of drift into some of the gravel or the sand. Those halibut are sitting there and they're eating a lot of the bait that's on that spot, and predominantly what we find in these spots is, you're going to find a lot of yellowtail rockfish, a lot of canary rockfish, some silver gray, some widow rockfish, and of course your yellow eye. And those halibut are actually, those larger model halibut are actually feeding on those rockfish, actively feeding on them.
Right. Okay. So when you're drifting across that structure, across that hard pan, and you start to shift into that, gravelly to sandy bottom, how far into that sandy bottom are you continuing your drift before you shut it down?
Not very far. I would say a quarter mile or less.
Okay.
We're keeping it pretty much on the rock. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that I think an underutilized tool is the pipe jig. Okay. Your standard, 3/4 inch copper pipe, 9 to 12 inches long, depending on how much weight you want, filled with lead. You got a stainless steel cotter pin in the middle. And I go heavy on all my gear, right? So the swivels, they're 500-pound swivels. I get them from Seattle Marine because they're more of a commercial store.
Yeah.
We're running 12-aught Mustad Duratin hook. We go heavy on everything, right? I mean, if you hook that fish of a lifetime, you don't want to have a failure due to gear.
Right.
And so, but that with that pipe jig is totally underplayed when it comes to the realm of halibut fishing. That people associate the pipe with lingcod, but in reality, you're going to catch everything on it. And you wouldn't believe, even those canary rockfish on the rock structures, they were eating the pipe jig.
Wow.
No
and
kidding.
the halibut were, and the lingcod were. So my approach when I get on a spot, even if it's a halibut spot, even if it is a mud spot, I want at least one person running a pipe jig at all times. So I've got a designated guy that runs the pipe jig. And the other thing about the pipe jig is I truly believe there's a right way and a wrong way to fish it. And it's not just a gentle tap 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 on the bottom. You want that pipe jig to hit the bottom with full force without putting any load on the rod. And so what I do when I jig a pipe jig, I'm lifting the rod up and I drop the tip towards the water, and I'm watching that line go down through the water column, and you'll know when the line stops because it'll slack. And then you pick the pipe jig up before it lays over on the bottom, and then you're snagged. So, and it's like ringing the dinner bell.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. So I like to run 50-50. I like to have half the boat running pipe jigs, the other half running bait. And that has worked really well over the years. So if you don't get that halibut on that pipe jig, you're attracting it to the boat. They see the bait, they key in on that bait rig, and then they consume the bait rig.
Right. Well, the one good thing about the pipe jig, especially if you're not running electric reels, is you don't have to reel up to check your bait very often.
Well, there is that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good point. So, I fished with some guys that actually hang bait off of one of the hooks on their pipe jig. You hang anything on it, you just fish just a naked pipe jig?
I've done both. I've put, small pieces of bait on there. I've also put hoochies on there, like 4 3/4 inch plastic squid. And the thing is, you will start to get some smaller fish, I believe, and they'll start to key in on that squid or that little piece of bait. And you also create a little bit more drag for your pipe jig.
Right.
So for me personally, I believe this is kind of a personal touch. It's up to the fisherman as to whether they want to do this or not. But for me, I'm running that pipe jig naked, just straight. So there's no drag, there's no resistance. And then you don't have to worry about, okay, I need to tip my pipe jig or anything like that. Yeah.
You keep talking about bait, especially for the halibut. What have you guys been using this season that seems to be working well for bait?
Yeah, so the key with any bait, no matter what bait you get, is to get the freshest bait you can.
Right.
You really don't want to get stinky bait. And so, what we have is we've got Atlantic salmon fillets, horse herring, octopus, squid, shad, mackerel. We like to kind of spread it out. We like to, so what I like to do is I'll have one guy running a tuna belly, and then the next guy over, maybe he's got a horse herring and a squid combo, and kind of just spread it across them. And that way, if they're keying in on one thing versus another, you can always switch to that other bait.
Right.
And then the other thing, you mentioned Potskis earlier. They make a really great product for brining your halibut baits. It's Potskis halibut and rockfish nectar.
Yeah.
Of that stuff. We've used that stuff with great success. So I think that's one of the keys. And you want to make sure your bait stays on the hook. So of course we're using big 12-aught Gamakatsu big river hooks, the biggest hooks that we can. Super fine point on them, super sticky, big throat. Once you hook a fish with it, unless you really miss the equation, you're going to bring that fish to the boat. So we run big hooks, and then we run big bait, and we also stretchy thread all of our baits, just like you would wrap a quick fish in the river.
Yeah.
We're wrapping that bait on that leader, and predominantly most of the time we're using like a large oversized hoochie, whether it's a 9-inch or a 14-inch B2 squid, or a Yamashita hoochie oversized with those 2 big river hooks and then a big bait. That's pretty much our main game for halibut.
Awesome. Let's switch gears for a little bit, Tommy, before we got to let you go. With your obsession with hunting the last several years, now you're a former athlete and have always, for the most part, continued working out, once you're done playing sports. But in conversation with you and just looking at some of your social media posts you've put out over the years, you've kind of changed the way you conduct business in the gym, and as far as the type of workouts and conditioning you do, realizing that the type of workout you do either actually sets you up great for success in having the energy and the wherewithal and the strength and the endurance and whatnot in the woods when you're in pursuit of animals or on the pack out, versus the types of workouts you were doing before. So just real quickly, kind of run down a little bit of some things that you've changed in the realm of your workouts to get you ready for hunting season.
Yeah, and I'll try to keep it brief because I could probably go on for. We could probably make an entire show around this subject right here.
And we may have to do that if I ever get you to drive down here from Everett. But yeah.
Well, hey, the good news really quickly is that pretty soon here in another 2 weeks I'll be working out of the Tequila office, so I'll be a hell of a lot closer.
Well, there you go.
Okay. He actually works a little bit.
A couple days a week. He said a couple days in the office, right? So
yeah. So my workout program, I used to be all power and all strength.
Right.
So it was all anaerobic. Not familiar with the word cardio or the word high intensity interval training.
Right.
That wasn't in my vocabulary.
Right.
But I realized that not just to get prepared for hunting, but just to have a good longevity, and to have a quality life, you really needed to focus on the cardiovascular.
Yep.
And so my focus has really switched from that, workout where you're taking 2 minutes between sets or 1 minute between sets to I go full out for 7 minutes at a time, 20 minutes at a time, before I take my first rest. So it's all high intensity. So it's not as heavy as a weight, but you're really working the reps,
Right.
and you're working the card. You're not giving your chance. You know, you're doing it in short stints. So you
Right.
work out really hard. You take a very short rest. Maybe it's a 30-second rest, 1 minute max. If
Yep.
I'm doing 7-minute intervals, and total body workout. So that's the key too.
Yeah.
You want that blood. You want the blood rushing up and down. You don't want it to just be just a leg workout or just an upper body workout. So we're doing complex movements, whether it's you know, a clean and press, whether it's a burpee mixed with a long jump. I mean, you name it. But the goal in my workouts now is to work the total body workout.
Yeah.
One of the workouts that I do that you can find online is the 300 workout.
Yeah.
Which, you know, supposedly the guys that shot the movie 300 did. That is a perfect example of the workouts that I do. It's roughly a 25-minute workout, 300 reps, and you just go all out. You do not take a rest.
You know why a lot of people don't do those workouts, Tommy?
Well, they suck.
Well, they suck.
I was going to say that.
And they hurt and they're hard and
Right.
that type of mentality to get after it like that. But the you know the payout at the end. I mean, the effort you put in indoors for the payout
Right.
to enjoy the outdoors. And I, like you and I discussed the other day, you could plan a 3-day trip out to Nia Bay. The weather could be kind of crappy. You get out on your first day of halibut and get the crap kicked out of you.
Right.
And you go out on Friday to simply go after lingcod, and you're like, man, I just can't do it. My back is just
Yep.
beat up, and I can't, you know, my legs are sore, and I'm going to have to take a day of rest today just so I can go after halibut on Saturday. Well, you know, if you're really looking to enjoy the outdoors, maybe you don't hunt, but even in that regard, Barnum, you know, to get
Right.
out in the ocean for a couple days, if it's beating you up, you need to think about, you know, maybe doing a little
Right.
something extra.
Well, we
throughout
see
the day.
it. We see it too often on the hunting side of things. Is people get excited all year long. They're so excited for hunting season. Oh, hunting season's coming. I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be ready. Well, they don't get themselves in shape.
Right.
2 days into the season, they're exhausted.
Yeah.
And they're wanting to quit already.
They're done.
And it's like you've been waiting for
Yeah.
this season for 11 and a half months, and it's here, and you're sitting on the couch because you can't hang.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say, you know, on that note, if I hadn't been working out the way that I had been with all those high intensity interval workouts, I would have not been able to cover 72 miles and get my bull out. Would absolutely not have been able to
Yeah.
do that.
Good point.
8.9 miles from the truck. And I was just thanking my lucky stars that I worked out like I did, because that made that pack out a hell of a lot easier.
Preparation, my
Heck
friend.
yeah.
So
Are you? What are you adding, or are you doing any type of nutritional plan while you're doing these workouts to get ready for
he's a
elk
keto
season?
guy, Barnum. You do
Yeah,
that.
is he?
I am on full keto.
Awesome.
And I tell you what, that is absolutely amazing. One of the first things that you get out of keto, if you train your mind right, is the concept that food is a necessary thing for fuel, but not a pleasure source. As soon as you get away from that thought of food as a pleasure source,
Right.
you can really unlock some good performance.
Yeah.
And you know, the whole, just for those that don't know about keto, and really short, it's a high fat, good protein amount, and you're really cutting out the carbs. And the basic concept here is that, you know, in terms of energy production, 1 gram of carbs produces 4 calories of energy.
Right.
One gram of fat produces 9 calories of energy.
Right.
If you operate your body on fat and don't fill your brain with, you know, glucose and your body with glucose,
Yep.
you will be a top performer. And not only physically, a lot of people think of, oh, well, this is a diet, you know, and I'll do it to get in shape for spring break. But this is also a cognitive. On the keto, I really recognize that my mental clarity was a lot better on keto than it had ever been in the past.
That's
So
what
I'm on
Barnum
full
says.
keto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barnum is keto. His wife is keto. My wife is keto. David's keto. I'm about the only one in the room that's not keto.
You're mosquito.
I'm mosquito. Herzog's chiming in. He says, wasn't Keto the Green Hornet sidekick? That very well could have been. Tommy, we're going to let you go. We could talk for hours, my friend. Always good to catch up with you. Do not be a stranger. Would like to see your butt planted here in the FHN studio at some point.
Absolutely.
And
Hey, man, I look forward to it.
awesome. Well, appreciate you taking the time tonight, and we will stay in touch. Good luck out there on the halibut grounds, and good luck on your pursuit of your up-and-coming hunts, but I'm sure we'll talk to you before that.
Yep.
Hey, sounds great. You guys have a great night.
All right, thank you. Tommy Dolan. He's
Yeah.
just he's a wealth of knowledge if he's out on the halibut grounds or chasing lingcod or tuna. maybe we'll get to slide in his boat and go chase some tuna with him.
Yeah,
That'd
right
be
on.
pretty
I mean,
fun.
he is definitely a dedicated sportsman and puts a lot of time and effort into the pursuits he's going on,
Well,
which
he's
is
an
what you
engineer
need
for
to
Boeing,
do.
right?
Right.
So he not only is he very smart, but he knows how to seek intel. I mean, he knows how to find the information he's seeking, and then he takes that to the next level and prepares. So
he's a perfect example of if you put out the work, you will be rewarded with success.
All right, we are running a little long on this show. No worries. I mean, we're in control of our own time.
Yeah.
I really don't care. If you,
David isn't pointing any fingers.
David's
at any
not pointing fingers. If you want to fire me, go right ahead. Okay, we're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back. We're going to be in the kitchen with Chef Kelly and Sherry for the recipe of the week. We have a clam opener this weekend, although the weather is a little bit frustrating.
Right.
But the tides are fantastic for those morning clam digs. And if you remember last week, we kind of set you up with that. And Chef Kelly and Sherry did a fantastic recipe on a clam dredge, Frito misto.
Yeah, it was a mixed fry or whatever.
Mixed fry, right? Well, I had mentioned back then if I could convince him to do surf perch this week, that would probably go hand in hand, setting people up for success for a dual weekend. So that looks like is what he's doing, some Cuban surf perch with mojo sauce. We come back right here on FHN.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Fish Hunt Northwest. We're here in the kitchen with Chef Kelly for the recipe of the week, and we're going Cuban.
Yes, we're going Cuban. Yeah, because I want to try to make a Cuban surf perch.
Wow, that's pretty popular. Well, it should be popular.
Yes, it should be popular. You know, it's razor clam season right now, and guys should be nipping off the top of those necks and then using those chase surf perch.
Yeah, for bait.
Yes, for bait. Just
see, I learned.
Don't trust the ocean. Always remember to keep an eye on it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Okay, so today we're going to be making a Cuban style surf perch, and we're going to fry up some tostones or fried plantains, however you want to say it. Traditionally, they call them tostones, and we'll make a mojo sauce, which is a traditional dipping sauce with the tostones.
Mojo with tostones.
Yes. Cuban style.
Fried plantains.
Right? Speaking about plantains, we're going to have to deal with this plantain here. This is it's not a banana, okay? So you're looking at it, it's a type of banana. It might be, but it's very, very starchy, so don't think of it as a sweet thing. And you have to deal with it on how you have to peel it. So let's start
how do you
that.
pick one?
Well,
how do you know it's ripe?
You want to just try to feel if it's firm,
Okay.
you know, it's kind of iffy on these, you know, major grocery stores.
The turnover isn't that high.
Yeah. So just kind of peel them. Just kind of run your thumb down there like this. Don't cut your thumbs off.
So it doesn't peel off like a banana.
No, it doesn't peel at all like a banana.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you know, it would be nice.
Okay, we'll just go with it's not a banana, Sherry.
It's not a banana. And so if you want to get ahead and prep these ahead of time, you could stick them in some water.
It loosens it up?
No, it just keeps it from browning, because if you do just, you know, it's sort of like a potato. You know, if you cut a whole bunch of potatoes and then just let them out, yeah, they're going to turn brown on you.
Right.
Okay, so this, you know,
You
remember
said it's
that.
like a starch.
Yeah, it's very starchy. Okay, so the thing you have to do with plantains is that you need to traditionally kind of cut them into like big chunks like this guy.
Okay.
You know, like that.
Inch and a half or?
Yeah, something like that, right? And you're gonna fry this in like a low temperature oil for like until they get kind of golden brown at like 300 degrees. Okay, so what we're shooting for is something like this. So this is cooked, but you know, we just want to cook it at a low temperature. So after we get to there, we're just going to take like I usually find like a dish like this, kind of good size, has a little shallow divot, and then I just kind of crush it so that it looks like this.
Flatten it like a pancake.
Flatten like, I mean, you know, what, quarter of an inch?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, there you go. So that's what we're doing there. That's how you deal with the plantain.
All right.
Okay, so now let's deal with our fish. So we got these beautiful fillets here.
Quite big for perch, right?
I was going to say, I don't know how many times I've caught surf perch and go, yeah, the size of my whole fish was this fillet, you know? And I'm going, wow. Yeah, but just keep after them, you know, just keep chasing around. You'll find those bigger ones out there. They're out there.
Well, they're really tasty.
You know, and they're really super aggressive too. If you
so they're fun.
Oh yeah, it's super fun. If you're not getting hit like immediately, like within a few seconds, literally, then they're not there. They're so aggressive that that they're going to be right on it.
Okay.
Okay, so fresh ground pepper, kosher salt.
Kosher salt.
Okay, now we're going to dip them in a little bit of corn flour.
Not cornmeal.
Not cornmeal. I mean, if you want to do the cornmeal thing, sure, whatever. But I like corn flour a little bit better. Has a little bit of crunch, but doesn't have that really aggressive crunch that cornmeal does.
Yeah, you're just putting a light coat in. That's why you're not doing like a liquid first.
Yes,
okay.
I just want a light little crunch.
Okay.
Okay, so our pan's nice and hot. Yep. We'll get a little bit of oil in there.
Oil going.
Okay, excellent. Always drop fish away from you like this. As you saw that there's a little bit of oil splash, but it went that away from you. Okay, if you can take care of this right here.
Yep.
Okay, so while that is working, we're gonna work on our mojo. Okay?
Mojo.
Mojo. This is orange juice. That's one orange. We're gonna add half a lime. Traditionally, they would use sour orange, but sour orange is not very available here in. Well, I mean, unless you live in Florida.
Maybe Florida. Yeah.
Okay. This is half an onion.
Okay.
Okay.
Sour orange, huh?
Yeah. A little bit of oregano. These are all very traditional flavors.
Yeah.
Right here. Okay.
Stuff you have.
A bit of salt. Black pepper. And another thing that's very, very traditional is the Cubans love garlic.
Garlic, yeah.
I mean, they go a little bit crazy on it. And so we're going to go pretty heavy.
Well,
so
you know I love the garlic.
We're going to do like 5 cloves. I mean, you can go even heavier than that. That's not, you know, crazy for the Cubans.
Okay.
Okay, so let that go.
Getting a little golden color to it.
A little golden color to it.
Wow, that looks awesome.
We're just going to set that aside. I think the residual temperature will get us there.
We'll go ahead and take care of it.
Okay. And of course, the Cubans love extra virgin olive oil.
All right. Yep. This recipe is really just the basic ingredients that you have in your kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know?
Well, except for the plantains.
Except for plantains. You may have to hunt those down. Let's go ahead and taste this.
Okay.
See where we're at.
Got you a spoon right there, do you?
Yeah, I gotta get
All
that.
right.
Looks pretty.
Mm-hmm. Kosher salt. Knew it.
Just a little bit.
Okay.
And we're gonna do the full lime.
Go full lime.
Go full lime.
All right.
All right.
Mix it back up.
So
or-
before we start that, let's go ahead and drop our tostones.
I'll flatten it out and ready to go.
Yep.
And you said like 350?
375 because we're just
375.
crisping them up because they're already done.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go ahead and finish this for a second. Here, take that for a second.
Okay. Whoops.
All right. One last taste.
Can I dish that up?
Much better. Okay, go ahead. You put that in there.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to add just a little pat of butter.
That was butter.
Yeah, that's just a little bit of butter, a little bit of garlic, and a little bit of that oregano.
Okay.
All right, well, that was really quick.
Yeah.
Okay, always with your fried foods, you're going to season them up, a little bit of salt, just nothing different.
This didn't take long, couple minutes.
Yeah. God, that smells good with the garlic in there.
Yeah. Nice fillets. I always love your presentations. They're just amazing. Can't wait to try my first plantain.
Right?
Yep.
You're going to put a little bit of that to the top. Oh, yeah. Not hurting a thing.
Nope. And you're gonna spoon for that.
Okay. And then
Okay.
a little bit of our mojo sauce.
Mojo sauce.
Mojo sauce.
Cuban mojo sauce. I like.
Okay, a little bit of pickled red onions for a little pop of color.
Gotta have that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I'm sure the flavor is just incredible on there.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
they just look so pretty on the plate, too.
Uh-huh.
You know, a little bit of oregano, too. How you like that?
I
Huh?
love it. Yes.
Guys,
Wanna-
try some surf perch out. They're just fantastic. You know, it's nothing really that exotic, and except for like you said, the plantains. And I told you how to deal with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a traditional mojo sauce.
It looks awesome. And while we're going to dig into this, we're going to throw it back to the guys in the studio.
Well, there you go, Barnum. Little Cuban surf perch with some mojo sauce.
Mojo.
I think you said, what did he put on top of there? A pink hoochie?
Right.
Looked like you stole something out of my Bait Lab cooking segment, right?
Yeah. I think it was some pickled onions or something.
Yeah,
was
well,
it? Some type of
something like
onion?
that.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll give it a go when we get in there.
Heck yeah.
You know, the cooking segments are gaining a lot of traction. People are really digging the recipes Chef Kelly and Sherry are throwing out every week.
Well, they're fantastic recipes.
And it's always fish, fowl, and game, right? So it's giving you guys options to try with your food that you're out harvesting on your own, which is fantastic. We enjoy the fact that you message us and let us know that you're utilizing those recipes and taking advantage of that. It's changing up some of the things you're eating, which you're enjoying. Post your pictures. Let us know when you're using them. Chef Kelly loves to hear from you. Lets him know that what he's putting out there resonates with you folks, and that's good stuff. Doug Page is asking, I really enjoy the cooking segments. Maybe you could do some sausage or pepperoni making. Sausage or pepperoni. On that, Doug, we actually early on started videoing some of our how-to stuff. The sound quality isn't ideal what we were shooting for, but the content is there. Go to our YouTube channel, scroll down to some of our first videos. I spent some time with Barnum one day in his meat room. We did basic setup of your grinder 101. This is all venison and fat. We did one on meat to fat ratio. We did basically a grind on how you should grind, stage 1, stage 2. And we finished it out with seasoning. And then, of course, we made some summer sausage, if I remember right. So those videos are all there. We're going to build more. There'll be more as we get into the fall and harvest more venison and whatnot. We are going to create some of those different types of videos that you're asking for. A lot of how-to stuff.
As we get into the fall, we'll have a lot more wild game, a lot more meat, and we'll be doing all sorts of stuff here in the bait lab. We'll be doing segments in my meat room. I mean, in the meat room, we make, if you can name it, we make it in there.
That's true.
So we'll have plenty of content coming along.
Might even delve into a little bit of canning.
Oh, for sure.
Out of the Barnum Garden, right? Barnum Gardens.
Yep.
You heard it here first. Hey, something going on with the weather out there that I don't particularly like, but when we get through this weather pattern that is kind of hovering overhead right now, we are in for a long, hot, dry, dusty summer. So this rain isn't all bad as it sits right now, but we do have a clam dig coming up this weekend.
We do.
We got some sturgeon opportunity on Saturday, do we not?
We do.
It may put a little moisture on you and on your boat, but what do you got for us getting us through the weekend there, Barnum?
Well, let's kind of look at, let's not look at that one. I lost it.
Whoops.
Let's look at OMAC. Let's look at the east side real quick. East side, you're still going to have that rain hanging around Friday. Saturday looks like it's going to be a little better. And into the first part of next week, things kind of dry out a little bit. Definitely not as bad as they have been this week. We talked last week about the onshore flow coming back, and it absolutely has, and we've been wet, obviously.
Yeah, especially today was the big one.
Right, today was pretty wet, and we're going to kind of continue that pattern into the weekend, with showers coming along, and even into the first part of next week, we're going to continue to see the showers coming along. This thing's kind of bouncing all over the place today, so don't worry too much about that. But let's go here to the 10-day. You can see Thursday today, we just absolutely got pounded. We've seen over an inch of rain in the Cascades. We were, a quarter inch to a half an inch along the coast. Tomorrow we're going to dry out a little bit, but we could see, up to a quarter inch along the coast. And, lucky for me, I'm going to the east side, leaving tonight. We're going to get wet over there. As you can see, that rain's going to push across for tomorrow, and Idaho is going to see areas of an inch of rain tomorrow, which is, it's springtime all across the region, not just on the west side of the state. As we go into Saturday, we're going to see the rain showers continue. Quarter inch again, and we're going to do that on Sunday. We'll dry out a little bit, but you'll see some of those higher elevations are going to still get hit with some pretty heavy rain. So rain is in the forecast for the next 4 or 5 years, 4 or 5 days.
4 or 5 years.
Right. It feels like it. We've had an amazing spring. And now we get a week of rain.
Everybody's bitching.
Yeah, I'm bitching. I'm at work like, this is ridiculous. I'm trying to schedule concrete pours, and I can't schedule anything. But let's take a look at these tides. We got Mock Rocks is open this weekend for clam bait. You got a low minus 1.1 on Sunday at 8:09, and you got a minus 1.3, on Saturday at 8:09, and then on Sunday at 8:54. So 2 great tides for Mock Rocks. I mean, they're calling for showers. They're not calling for heavy rain. So I think those are going to be good digs. Let's kind of look at the offshore forecast. You're looking at, on Saturday, winds 5 to 15, wind waves 2 feet or less, west swell 4 feet to 6 seconds, going to build 6 feet to 14 seconds. I know there's a halibut opener on Saturday, right? So you guys are going to get a little bit of wind for that, but it looks like a definitely doable, fishable day. I don't think you're going to see cancellations from charters or from your guides, or I think, as long as you're in a decent-sized wreck boat, you'll be able to get out there pretty easily.
Sure.
Sunday, it's going to be a little, the wind's going to be about the same, but the swells obviously is going to build with that, with that wind picking up a little bit. But 7 feet at 13, not horrible. Kind of what we have going on, another major one, is the sturgeon opener. And as these better tides start coming around, and let's kind of click on those tides so you guys can see it, but Saturday you have that -1.1 at 8:09, and then Monday you're going to have a -1.3 at 9:37. These are the tides I've been waiting for.
Sure.
I didn't fish the first week of the opener just because I don't like the off tides with sturgeon.
Right.
With sturgeon, we're looking for a steady or even rising barometer, and we are looking for those building minus tides. The bigger and bigger the tides, the heavier current flows. And you can have some really good fishing on these days. These first couple openers, talking to a couple friends, I mean, I had one friend that, he asked me for some coordinates. I helped him out. He did go out the first day, and he landed 3 fish and got 1 keeper.
Oh, good.
Went out the second day and picked up a keeper.
Okay.
So, I mean, there are some fish being caught.
Yeah.
On the first day, on the Monday opener, he told me he talked to the fish checker, and they, out of 61 boats, had seen 3 keepers.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it's definitely not great fishing.
Not on fire.
There's fish to be caught, but you're going to see it. This week coming up, it's going to pick up with those minus tides, and that steadying barometer. We had that barometer drop with the low pressure coming in. Barometer is going to start to rise. Better tides. Fish are going to be caught.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting out finally on our, our sturgeon opportunity.
Right.
Not only are we going to catch fish, but we are going to get some video content that's going to show you how and all the things that we do with Captain Barnum here.
Right.
And then we'll also be able to break that down as far as the how-to and processing that. And of course, it'll end up in the kitchen at some point with Chef Kelly. So we do the full-on program here. We're going to try to teach you everything from how to go out and harvest, how to enjoy it on the plate, how to present it to your friends.
Yeah, I'm going to shoot a lot of video on the boat when we get out, and a whole bunch of stuff that I don't think you see from a lot of people, talking about our rod setups and our spreads, and how to make sure we're getting a good fan across the back of the boat to target the biggest area, and how to adjust those spreads as the bites come on. And it's going to be really good content. It's going to help you guys a lot in this sturgeon fishing.
Absolutely. Ron Kistner is asking coyote and cougar recipes. Cougar, yes.
Yeah.
Coyote,
Yeah, not great tasting.
Yeah.
But cougar is actually an amazing meat.
I have yet
really
to try
light
it.
meat like pork, and you would never know it's cat.
Yeah, and that's something.
Yeah, amazing.
All right, well done. That should get you squared away for the weekend as far as your weather report goes. Get out there, go get some clams, go get some surf perch. Try those 2 recipes that we've thrown at you the last couple weeks. I guarantee you're going to enjoy them. They are definitely worth the effort. We'll jump out for a quick commercial break. We come back. If you want to talk turkeys, if you want to talk smallmouth, walleye, triploids, kokanee, our man coming up next is the guy you want to talk to, because you can do all that and more when you get to the east side over there, Okanagan area. Jared Gibbons, Okanagan Valley Guide Service, coming on next right here on FHM.
you go.
Oh, hey, screwed around with my turkey call. Sounded like a eagle. Anyway.
Is that what you call that, a turkey?
No, that was an eagle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I actually was messing with the one the other day, and he was flying around.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so anyway.
I don't know if that's going to help you harvest anything, but...
I got eagles flying overhead. It's like I can't shoot a damn thing. Yeah. Anyway, so, hey, Barnum, if you want to go get a turkey, which we've realized maybe we don't have time to go get a turkey because we got too much other stuff going on, there's still ample opportunity for the next couple of weeks over on the east side, right, till the end of the month. Jared Gibbons has had a phenomenal season. If you have followed Jared Gibbons or his Okanagan Valley Guide Service page on social media, you're going to see that he has put a lot of focus on really great birds this year. Lots of toms, doing a fantastic job over there. But wait, there's more. If you want to go catch some smallmouth or perhaps some walleye, maybe delve into a few triploids that he's going to start pursuing. And even a few of those larger kokanee, dude, I dare say, I'll let him tell you where he's getting those at. That cat's out of the bag based on his post the other day. But so glad to finally get Jared Gibbons back on the phone with us. First time here on FHN. How you doing, Jared?
Doing great. How are you?
Hey, we're doing fantastic. Thanks for taking time with us tonight. So are you done hunting turkeys, or if somebody wanted to come over and pursue a bird over the next couple of weeks and maybe schedule a combination day with you, maybe go turkeys one day and maybe go chase some walleye or go after some kokanee on day two. You got anything like that going on that folks could get excited about?
Yeah, we could probably get something lined up. We're pretty much almost full for the year. We got our last scheduled hunters coming this weekend here, and then I got a bunch of fishing trips scheduled up. So, but we're pretty much wrapping it up this weekend. The turkey hunting is still really extremely good. The hens are going to nest, and the toms are very, very close susceptible right now.
Right. What would be your best setup if you were going to target those birds? If you are going to target those birds this weekend, how are you approaching that?
You don't have to get too close to them right now. Sometimes early in the season you have to set up close and get in between them and the hens. But now you can set up pretty far away. You can get up pretty aggressive right off the roots. And we're getting a lot of early morning kills. Just they're hitting ground. The hens are heading straight to the nest, and they're really looking for the hens. So being really aggressive right off the get-go has gotten quite a few birds for us lately.
Well, you've had a great season thus far, and if you're able to get out and get a couple more birds, that would be awesome. But I know you are kind of shifting gears here. You've been out chasing kokanee, doing some test runs. You had some great success. Is that location you're fishing is where you're going to run some trips for people as well to go after those kokanee now?
Yeah, the kokanee is something, it opened up our general season end of April in the lakes around here. But yeah, we're switching gears, going right into kokanee fishing, and it's going to shape up to be a great season. I mean, we're getting some 15, 18-inch kokanee already.
Wow.
And just some fatties. I mean, there's one that was 19 inches just pushing over 2 pounds already.
No kidding.
It's going to be a great summer for sure.
Let's talk a little bit about details relative to those kokanee, where you're finding them, kind of depth they're at now, water temperature that you're finding, troll speeds that are conducive to getting them to snap, and is it a morning deal? Is it an all-day deal? What's going on in your program right now?
Well, pretty much it's been a first light deal probably till about 9 o'clock, and then, of course, your bite's going to be dying off. We're looking at water temperatures right now in like 57-degree water, fishing water between 45 and 50 feet deep, catching them between 25 and 35 feet down right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. That's not crazy deep. What are you guys using to target them as far as spinners or gear?
Well, of course, we're using, our Dodgers, Rocky Mountain Tackle. We've been using those quite a bit, the 5.5 Dodgers. And then we have our own our eliminator setups from Moneymaker,
Right.
Pink Hoochies or yellow-orange Hoochies. And switching them up to some customized shaker wings that we've been doing, some orange and pink with some chartreuse backs, some double-sided shaker wings that we've been running the last year and a half, and being very successful on that. Tipping, of course, with some corn, orange and red corn, and then, scent-wise, we're using, we have a kokanee sockeye scent for super dipping sauce, along with our garlic scent have been producing.
Yeah. Now, you're working pretty closely with Jared over at Rocky Mountain. You guys have kind of teamed up on a few things. He's running some of your shaker wings now because they're so darn successful, right?
Yeah, Jared Johnson has picked up some wings, and he threw his own twist to it. He did some splatter paint over the top of the shaker wings, double-sided moon jelly wings, and did his splatter splatter paint, and he added it to a few of his setups, 3 or 4 or 5 setups he did, and then was selling some individual wings. So he had pretty good luck with that, and hopefully we can keep doing that with Jared. It worked out really, really well.
Yeah, it's a great combination. What do you got going on the walleye front as of late? I know you got out, we're chasing a few there not too long ago, then the turkey thing kind of took over, but what's your outlook for your walleye options coming up?
Yeah, well, the walleye, they're just starting to finish up spawning. We're going to be getting into the walleye here probably right around the 1st of June, right after turkey season, and we're still going to be jigging a lot for them and then running some bottom walkers and some shaker wings on some of those, some worm harnesses, and dragging that down around Rufus Woods and then around the mouth of the Okanagan as well, probably.
Gotcha. Okay.
What size fish are you expecting to see there? I mean, as far as size-wise?
Size-wise, we're doing pretty good with 16 to 19-inch fish.
Wow.
We're catching a few really nice 6, 7, 8 pound fish as well. We got lucky catching a few 10s, but of course throwing those back and keeping those nice eater-sized fish. So it seems like they're producing some really good fish this year. A lot better than some of the lakes, like Banks Lake wasn't producing a very good size cut fish. It's getting hammered pretty good. And I think some of the quality's going down in Banks Lake. So just rotating and fishing a lot of the Columbia River and Rufus Woods, a lot of some untapped water in there that a lot of people can't and haven't been hitting.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, good point. You've kind of been delving into chasing some of them smallmouth. You got an abundance of opportunity over there for your smallmouth and some good sized fish that you're pulling out of a lot of the areas you're fishing, and now you're actually running smallmouth trips. What can folks expect if they want to come on over and spend a day chasing some smallmouth with you?
Oh man, well, we can expect probably a 20 to 30 fish day.
There you go.
Doing a lot of sight fishing, getting fish probably between a lot of 3-pounders, a lot of 4s, 5s, and then occasional 6, even if we're lucky, maybe even a 7-pound smallmouth. But a lot of sight fishing and having a lot of catch and release. All catch and release, and having a good time doing it. It's probably hand for hand, probably the strongest fighting fish, and fun doing it, watching them eat bait and fighting them in fresh water like that. I mean, it's just phenomenal fishing.
Right, and I'm assuming you guys are hitting them on topwater a lot too.
We're doing some of that, maybe some flukes, doing that, but a lot of cane casting, some grubs, some Cinco's, and maybe some jerk baits, doing a lot of that.
Right.
Yeah. They are definitely pound for pound, like you said, one of the hardest fighting little critters out there, and a really good time if you want to catch a ton of fish, an aggressive little fish that fights hard with light gear. That sounds like a really good time. I would be interested in coming over and chase, something like that on a catch and release fishery, and then perhaps follow up day 2, or if I flipped it around, did triploids on day 1. The last couple years, last couple seasons, you have been posting up a ton of pictures on some of your triploid fisheries. That is very enticing to make people drive from the west side to come over and get some of those fish. Not only do they eat great, but they fight well. Big old fat, little buggers that just, man, when you put them on the grill, there's something else. So, what's your outlook for your triploid fishery? Is that going to start cranking up for you here? And are you booking quite a few trips on that?
Yeah, we're starting to book a few trips on that. I've been posting a lot of turkey photos, so people haven't got that.
Yeah.
But now with the triploids, like you said, we're going to be running that a lot in the month of June, and then probably through July and August, just depending on our fishery over here. The water's going to be warming up, and so the fish are going to be getting a little more active that I like. Using a lot of jigs, maybe running some crankbaits for those, and doing some trolling and expecting a good number of fish days. I've been out there, prior to turkey season, and we were having 15, 20, 25 fish days. Wasn't uncommon, and so really looking forward to concentrating and focusing on those for sure.
Right. Hey, Jared, I got to ask, because we've been talking about it in the studio. We got your picture up right now for the viewers to see, and we're curious, are those golf pants you're wearing or pajamas?
I'd have to say the pajamas.
Yeah, it looks like you rolled out of bed and said, hey, let's go fishing.
Right.
And we'll be off the water before I even wake up, so I'm just going to leave my PJs on.
I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually in July it's nice and warm, and so I just stay in pajamas and usually get off as quick as I can sometimes. Because,
Right.
it does get scorching hot, that's for sure.
Hey, you got to be comfortable on the boat. So
Absolutely.
we're not judging you one bit.
To me, that says, come fishing. We don't even have time for the coffee to get cold. We'll be back at the ramp and getting some breakfast, and them crawling back into bed. So.
Right. Some guys would be like, he doesn't look very professional. I'd be like, that's the guy I want to fish with.
I want to fish with a dude. If he's got enough confidence to wear pajamas,
Yep.
Now if he's out there sporting a T-back or something, I might be a little hesitant to go with him. But, pajamas says, hey, let's go get this done and get back to the dock.
I like to catch fish, but I like to party.
And I like to sleep, too. So, awesome. Well, you know what? We just talked about a handful of fisheries over there on the east side, Upper Columbia River opportunities, kokanee, triploid, rainbows, walleye, smallmouth. We didn't mention a single salmon or steelhead.
Nope.
Because we don't need to. Those opportunities in and of themselves, the size of fish, the quality of fish, the opportunities you provide for folks over there is second to none. I would recommend highly that folks contact Jared Gibbons, Okanagan Valley Guide Service. Jared, throw out a phone number they can reach you at or a website you want them to go to book a trip with you.
Yeah, definitely. You reach me on my phone at 509-429-1714 or hit me at OkanaganValleyGuideService.com or on my Facebook page. Message me there. And we can talk about what you want to target, and we can get something set up for you.
Fantastic. Awesome. All right, buddy. Always a pleasure. Don't be surprised when your phone rings and it's me or Barnum booking a trip.
Heck yeah.
So,
Sounds
anyway,
great.
Awesome. Well, have a great evening. We will we'll be in touch, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. There is, for a lot of folks that don't know, opportunity on the east side of our state in that Wenatchee Valley, Okanagan area, Tenasca. I mean, all that stuff over there it just is riddled with opportunity.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful area.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
the weather's
North
usually,
Central Washington is unbelievable.
Might be a good place to retire.
Yeah.
Of course, we'd have to move the studio.
Right.
and convince the wives. And,
right. We'd be close to Herzog, though.
Oh, it's a good point. You hear what we're saying? This thing's going to blow up here in a minute.
Right.
But, okay, we're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back. We're going to close out the show. A couple topics we want to touch on if we have time. Appreciate you sticking with us through the break. We will be back shortly right here on FHM.
What if there was a smarter way to search for your new home? Introducing the Better Homes and Gardens real estate website and mobile app. This revolutionary new search tool puts your needs first. Narrow your search to what matters most to your family, like school data, school districts, and even walk scores. Get easy access to your local affiliated agent, as well as unique and local insights about neighborhoods and properties directly within the app. With synced and saved preferences, you'll always pick up wherever you left off. Get your smarter search started today with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate.
Welcome back to FHN as we wind it down and close out the show for this week. Time flies by fast.
It does.
Yeah, we appreciate all you hanging on. We got a number of folks still tuned in here, which is nice to see at the end of the show. 2 hours is a long time. People have said often to us, why don't you guys do 2 1-hour shows? I don't know, why don't we do, 4 half-hour shows? I mean, it's enough effort to get us all in here one time a week. We got lives and jobs and wives and things like that. So
watch as long as you can. Come back tomorrow, watch a little more. Come back this weekend,
pick and choose. We'll break out some of those segments as we go along throughout the week. Look for those. We post them up. Cooking segment, standalone, how-to, if it's worth it, that type of stuff. So, but for those that hunker in and stick with us for the full 2 hours, we really appreciate your support. Make sure you're just spreading our information out there. Click everybody you know. Get our links out there so folks start figuring out where we're at and what we got going on each and every week. So can't thank you enough. Martin, before we close it out, WSU this week, you found some information as it relates to actually some of our elk here in Southwest Washington.
Right. So WSU announced Monday this week that they are constructing a new $1.2 million facility to study hoof rot in Washington elk.
No kidding.
So they're on the Pullman campus. They're looking at it'll have 10 isolation pens. It'll have a handling facility, 2 1.5-acre holding pastures. They're looking at holding, if I remember the numbers right, between 10 to 20 elk in this facility that they will, as from what I also listened to a podcast of one of the scientists that are involved in this, and they're looking at bringing in elk that have hoof rot, this is going to excite a lot of sportsmen. They're actually going to dive into the herbicide issue and whether or not herbicides are affecting the elk and could be a reason for why they're saying, there's still a lot of questions to be answered on why did this pop up, what's causing it, what's going on, how is it transmitted, how is it spread.
So like the herbicide warehouser would be spraying out there on the forest lands to keep the
underbrush down so that the fir trees can grow. Right, so they don't have to compete.
Yep.
That's something that's been thrown around for years, and it hasn't been proven, it hasn't been disproven, it really hasn't been studied, as far as I know, to know whether or not.
That's a good point,
We talked about it a long time ago as, you had, especially in the Southwest Washington area with the Willapa herds, you had immense elk herds. Yeah. Just immense populations of elk. Yeah. And we've lost about 50% of that population to hoof rot.
Right.
A lot of people believe, and I was one of those, that with the use of herbicide maybe not being the absolute direct, cause of hoof rot, but just the amount of food that it takes off of the landscape that isn't there anymore because they're treating with herbicide and killing off that underbrush.
They could be the catalyst.
So it's a carrying capacity issue.
Yeah.
Anytime we talked about that earlier in the show, anytime the carrying capacity of the ecosystem drops, you're going to see disease spread through the herds to, cut down the number of elk.
It wouldn't be the first time man intervened and screwed up the environment to have a detrimental effect on the wild game in the area.
Right. So I was reading through this whole thing, and I was happy to see that was actually mentioned, that they're actually going to look into that, and hopefully it's going to take them about a year to construct the new facility, and then they're going to go into testing. This was all part of a 2017 Senate Bill 5474, which funded this.
Okay.
So it's not coming directly out of the WDFW budget.
Right.
It came through the legislature.
Right.
So, and if I remember right, I could have this number wrong, but the number 1.5 million sticks out as part of that Senate bill.
Are they going out and they're going to actually capture elk in the wild?
Yeah. And bring them to the facility.
Helicopter and whatever, right?
Right. And one of the things they talked about is the importance of making sure this is an enclosed facility so that if treponema-induced hoof rot has the ability to cross-contaminate into livestock or something like that they're doing everything they can to make sure that cannot get out of their facility.
That's a good point. Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be a really good thing, and I really think some good stuff's going to come out of this.
Well, I think it's the first time they're actually going to have the money, the support, and the time to delve into this and really figure out what is causing it.
Right.
And once they figure out the cause, now how to prevent it.
Right.
So that's huge. That's absolutely huge. So, all right, on that uptick, seeing as how our opening segment was such on the downturn.
Right.
If you want to be depressed, talk about Chinook. If you want to put a smile on your face, talk about elk. That's what that's what I learned from today, kids. That's what we got going on. So, fantastic. All right, we will close it out. We're going to be back next week, Thursday evening, 6 to 8 p.m. right here in the studio. Tons of more information coming your way. Lots of how-tos, another fantastic cooking recipe. All that is found here each and every week, Thursday evening, 6 o'clock. And of course, as we continue to advocate for, stick with us throughout the week, either via Facebook or check out our YouTube channel. Go subscribe if you haven't, so you never miss anything we're putting out there. And of course, we'll get more information out there on our Instagram page. Appreciate you guys supporting us along the way. We will see you right here next week, Thursday evening, 6 p.m., right here in the studio on FHN.
Fish on.